Morning, everybody. Thank you for joining us. We'll begin with chapter 49, verse 5. Chapter 49, verse 5, Yaakov is giving blessings to his sons. They normally are translated as blessings, but the truth is it's really as much comments and observations and parting words as it's blessings. So he talks about Shimon and Levi. It's important to remember that the whole story involving the city of Shechem and Dino being taken and the Yaakov's family going and attacking the city was Shimon and Levi. That's who it was. If you remember, we discussed this actually on the week that it fell out in the Parsha. The idea of convincing the male residents of the city to have a bris seemed to be consensus. But the idea of killing them all afterwards seemed to specifically be Shimon and Levi. At least that's how, that was one approach that we had. That was the primary approach that we had. But let's look at the verse now, chapter 49, verse 5. So now he's going to talk to Shimon and Levi. Shimon v'Levi achim. Shimon and Levi are brothers. Now, that's an evident one. All of these people are brothers. So obviously, brothers means something else in this context. Klei chamas m'cherosehem. Their tools are tools of wrath. Now it's a very strong pasuk b'sodam al tavo nafshi b'kolam al techad kvodi, that my soul will not come in their secrets, my honor will not come in their gatherings. Kiva apam or harguishu, it's on the gushor. They did different things with their anger, and then he versus their anger, and he says they're going to be spread out among Klal Yisrael. But what's the story with this language of achim, brothers? So let's just see the Ramban on pasuk Hey. Shimon v'Levi achim. Yomar bale achva ki yicham libam ala chosam. It's an interesting comment. They are people of brotherhood, because when their sister was treated in an inappropriate way, they got them very hot. Yelamed alehem schus. Though Yaakov is criticizing their action, he is also defending them in a sense. Ki b'kinosam al ha'achva asu masha asu. Their strong act, which Yaakov did not agree with, stemmed from their remarkable sense of responsibility for their sister. Lomar she'ein ru'uyim la'onesh gadol. So it's fascinating. He says Yaakov is saying two different things. First of all, they shouldn't get a big punishment. They shouldn't get a big punishment because they meant well. And their action, though it might have been misguided, was coming from a very good place. On the other hand, it's a very serious sin that they perpetrated. So it's not easily forgiven. Ki Shimon v'Levi achim gemurim domim achim zelazeh ba'atzasum maseim. But the Ramban says what I really think it means is it's not a statement on their sense of brotherhood towards their sister. It just means, what would you say it as? They're two peas in a pod. They are really, Shimon and Levi are really on the same page. And if you understand it that way, it's not necessarily a compliment here. In other words, the point is that they really, and it's an explanation for why they have to be spread out and they can't be together. That's the interesting idea, but an interesting perspective here on what's meant by emphasizing their brotherhood. Okay, again, we could spend a long time talking about the ins and outs of these psukim, but we're just going to highlight a few points here in this parsha. Verse 10. He's now on Yehuda. Lo yasur shevet mi Yehuda. The staff will not be removed from Yehuda. Ad umchokek ben raglov, nor the scepter from between his legs. Ad ki yavo Shiloh v'lo yikasamim, until Shiloh comes. Okay. Now, what's normally understood as the statement that the staff will not be removed from Yehuda has to do with the kingdom, that the kings will be from the tribe of Yehuda. But there's a lot of questions to pose about this. There's a very interesting Ramban on this pasuk. So let's go to the Ramban on pasuk Yud. Lo yasur shevet miYehuda. Ein inyano shalo yasur liolam. It does not mean that the tribe of Yehuda will never lose rulership, because it's not true. Kikasov. In one of the versions of the Tochacha, the stern psukim of rebuke to the Jewish people, it says, God will take you and your king to a place that you don't know. The meaning of that is the people will be in exile and the king will be in exile. So obviously there is such a thing as the king from Yehuda losing control, because that's what it says in the Torah is going to happen. That the idea is there'll be a time, and of course we know this came to be true. There'll be a time in Klal Yisrael where they don't have kings and officers. The Yamim Rabim ein Melech Israel. Like now, there are many times that there's no king in Israel. So then, what is Yaakov saying? In other words, you could have understood the pasuk to mean that there'll always be a king from Yehuda, but it's not true. Certainly, Yaakov is not saying, "Oh, you guys will always be on top because you'll always have a king." It's not what he's saying. It means that the tribe of Yehuda will not lose the monarchy to someone from another tribe. That's the pshat in the pasuk. Ki malchus Yisrael hamoshel aleihem mimenu yiyeh v'lo yimshol echad me'echav. Ki malchus Yisrael hamoshel aleihem mimenu yiyeh v'lo yimshol echad me'echav olav. In other words, it won't be that one of the other tribes will govern, that a representative of one of the other tribes will govern over the tribe of Yehuda. V'chein lo yasser mechokik bein raglav shekol mechokik b'Yisrael asher b'yado tabas hamelech mimenu yiyeh. That whoever in Yisrael has the signet ring of the king will always be from Yehuda. Ki yimshol v'yitzava b'chol Yisrael. The person in charge of Klal Yisrael will always be from Yehuda. V'lo chosam hamalchus, and that person will have the signet of the king. Ad ki yavo Shilo v'lo yikas kol ha'amim lasos b'kulam k'ritzono, and that will be the case until Shiloh comes, and then all the nations will come to do like the will of the Jewish king. What is Shiloh? V'zehu haMashiach. That's a reference to the coming of the Mashiach, the ultimate redemption. Ki hashevet yirmos l'David shu hamelech harishon asher lo shevet malchus v'Shiloh hu b'no asher lo yikas ha'amim. So the reference to the staff here is the staff of David HaMelech, the first king from the tribe of Yehuda. And what it's saying is from David until the coming of Mashiach, whatever king there'll be over the Jewish people will always be from the tribe of Yehuda. Okay, he quotes the Ebenezer, but let's just skip that because it's a long enough Ramban. So it's skip 4 to 5 lines, and in mind, it's a new paragraph. V'akasav hazeh remains. This pasuk is hinting Ki Yaakov him l'chshevet Yehuda al echav v'horish liYehuda memshala Yisrael. The Yaakov is making it that Yehuda will be the king over the Jewish people. V'uma shamer David vayivchar Hashem Elokei Yisrael bi mikol beis avi lios l'melech al Yisrael liolam. That this is what David HaMelech says, that God chose me from all of my father's family to be a king on Israel forever. Ki bi Yehuda bachar l'nagid u'beis Yehuda beis avi u'bebnei avi. In other words, the David HaMelech is saying, wow, it was definitely, as we know from the Chumash, the king was going to be from the tribe of Yehuda. But it's a remarkable honor to David that of all the people in Yehuda, God chooses David and his descendants. The Amar lo yasur, and it says that the staff will not be removed. Lirmos ki yimloch shevet acher al Yisrael. Aval ma'esh sheyachal lios Yehuda shevet malchus lo yasur mimenu El Shevet Acher. Now, this is a really interesting statement. What's the meaning of this pasuk? Does the pasuk mean that the king of Klal Yisrael will always be from Yehuda? That's a strange way to say it. Lo Yasur Shevet Yehuda means the staff won't be removed from Yehuda. If you have no preconceived notions, just think about the words, what that phrase sounds like is once the tribe of Yehuda has the staff, they won't lose the staff. That's what it sounds like. But it does sound like, theoretically speaking, it might have been possible to have a king over Israel, not from Yehuda, before the kings started from Yehuda, that might have been possible. And if you know a little bit about the history of the monarchy, you realize that we just created an opening for a truck to drive through, because the first king in the history of Klal Yisrael was not from the tribe of Yehuda. The first king, of course, was Shaul from the tribe of Binyamin. And the idea is, so the Ramban is saying that what the pasuk is saying is, once the kingdom comes to Yehuda, and that is when David HaMelech got involved, it won't leave Yehuda. The Inyan Shaul Haya. So the story of Shaul, Ki bavur shedvar she'elas hamalchus ba'isa nisav eitzel HaKadosh Baruch Hu. I mean, what a strange thing to think about. So God has this divine plan. Most of God's plans are divine, but God has this plan that that the king is always supposed to be from Judah. Well, not always, but the bottom line is the vast majority of the time the king is supposed to be from Judah. So if I were to ask you to guess, so what tribe should be the tribe that the first king is from? I mean, wouldn't you assume it'd be from Yehuda? If God thinks it's a great idea that the king be from Yehuda, why shouldn't the first king be from Yehuda? So the Ramban explains, because this is a very famous discussion, but God didn't like the way the Jewish people asked for a king when they asked for a king. So the whole context of them requesting a king when Shaul ultimately became the king was not good in the eyes of God. Lo ratzu lahamlich aleim min hashevet asher lo hamalchus shelo yosef mimenu leolamim v'nasan lahem malchus sha'ah. So because they asked incorrectly at the beginning, so God did decide to accommodate the request, but he basically accommodated the request in a way that wouldn't be a long-time success. He didn't want the initial request for the king to start a whole dynasty. He didn't want that. So that's the idea, that the plan is that once Yehuda gets started, it won't leave Yehuda, but God wanted it to be that the first one that was asked for incorrectly would not be a long-term successful dynasty. And that's why specifically the first king did not come from the tribe of Yehuda. I'll have to decide if we continue with this Ramban or not. It's a very interesting Ramban. We're like something like halfway through the Ramban. But we discussed this morning the interesting phrasing in the pasuk that Shimon and Levi are brothers, and we discussed the question regarding what exactly it means that the kingdom will not leave the tribe of Yehuda.